Airemai and welcome to Pacific Pulse. I'm Clement Paligaru. Coming up, unraveling the history of Pacific migration through language, Taiwan's Pacific connections, and celebrating Pacific traditions with meke, Fijian dance. Many scientists and archaeologists believe the earliest settlers of the Pacific came from Taiwan. In New Zealand, a group of scientists think they've found new evidence studying languages using computers to trace the path of the ancient mariners. Archaeological evidence has long suggested that the Pacific was first settled over 5,000 years ago. But language is proving one of the strongest links between the Pacific and Taiwan. Many of the languages spoken across the islands of Asia and the Pacific are from the Austronesian language family.
It's one of the largest language families in the world with an incredible geographic spread all the way from Taiwan, along Borneo, Sulawesi in Indonesia, and then out to the far reaches of Micronesia and Polynesia, so Fijian, Samoan, Tongan, Rapa Nui, and of course Maori in Aotearoa.
Linguists have been analysing Austronesian languages for more than 100 years, but a University of Auckland team is the first to use computer modelling to map how language has evolved across the Pacific.
I spent, 6 years or so building this large database of Austronesian languages.
There are clear similarities between many Pacific languages and Taiwanese, like the words for the number 2 in some of Taiwan's indigenous languages and in New Zealand's Maori language.
In Maori it's Rua, and so the Aboriginal languages of Taiwan, like Amis, it's Tusa. In Paiwan it's Dusa, and then Rua or Lua in most parts of Polynesia. So you can see really striking linguistic connections there.
Computer modelling maps the meaning of words and similar sounds to build a family tree of related languages.
We estimated that all the 1,200 Austronesian languages can be traced back to Taiwan about 5,200 years ago. Imagine this is just the little segment of the tree for all the Eastern Polynesian languages. And we can see that they all share a common ancestor, say. So it's by getting a measure of how long the branches are along the tree, how many changes have accumulated, how many new words have been introduced, how many old words have been replaced, that we're able to estimate the dates.
The tree's really nice, showing the relationships of the language.
The team's most significant finding is being able to use the development of language to time when the different parts of the Pacific were settled by the Austronesian speakers who originally set out from Taiwan.
What we could show was we could pinpoint specific parts of that language tree that where there were definite pauses, definite slowdown in the rate at which language is spreading, and regions where there were definite speed-ups. And they could then line those up with what they knew from archaeology, and it turned out that the language information and the archaeological information lined up very well in a number of places, exactly as we'd expect.
Linguists discovered the term for outrigger canoe first appears in Taiwan just before the Taiwanese migrated to the Philippines.
So what that suggests is that the people in Taiwan didn't have outrigger canoes, but then some of them invented these outrigger canoes, and it was that invention, that cultural invention, that enabled them to get across the Bashi Strait from Taiwan to the Philippines. Then there's a complete explosion. So here's the Philippines, and in less than 1,000 years, the Austronesian speakers sped down and then out to the far reaches of the Pacific, to New Caledonia, to Vanuatu, to Tonga, Fiji and Samoa, all the way.
That rapid migration spawned the evolution of many new languages.
Imagine there's one language, and for whatever reason, maybe people move to a different island, the communities start to differentiate. There are new words that are introduced. One example might be terms for rainbow. In lots of parts of the Pacific, it's something like nuanua. But in eastern Polynesia, there's been a change where a long A sound has been added at the front of that. So in Maori, it's aniwaniwa, in Rapa Nui, it's nui nui, and in Hawaiian, it's anuanua.
The language patterns help map the migration to central Polynesia around 3,000 years ago into Fiji, Samoa and Tonga. But it's not clear why it's at least another 1,000 years before people moved to Tahiti, Hawaii and New Zealand.
So it's curious, why such a rapid pulse, and then why such a long pause before the settlement of the most remote parts of Polynesia? Some people suggest that it was the invention of big double-hulled canoes, much, much bigger than this, canoes that could take 200 people. And it seems like they might have been necessary for the really vast oceanic voyages to get from Tahiti and the Marquesas up to Hawaii or to get down to Aotearoa, New Zealand. Some people think it was changes in climate, changes in the El Nino pattern that made those areas more possible to voyage to. So there's a heck of a lot more to be uncovered.
This research is not just about how the Pacific was settled, but an insight into the spirit of human endeavour.
Well, this is one of the greatest human expansions ever into this, massive expanse of uncharted globe for the very first time.
And about that time, 4,000 to 3,000 years ago, Europeans were just timidly exploring along the edge of the Mediterranean, and here are the Austronesians, who became the Polynesians, doing these amazing oceanic kind of voyages.
Now more on Taiwan's links to the Pacific from a Taiwanese perspective.
Every 4 years, people of the Pacific gather for the Festival of Pacific Arts, a celebration of indigenous culture and tradition. The only Asian country represented is Taiwan.
For us, it's very exciting that we start reaching out the similarity with all the Pacific brother and sister.
Taiwan was first invited to join the festival by 2004 host Palau, one of Taiwan's 6 diplomatic allies in the Pacific. The majority of Taiwanese are Han Chinese, but 2% are indigenous Taiwanese, Austronesian people sharing linguistic and genetic ties with people across Oceania.
People started asking, is that real? Why you speak the same language?
Especially in New Caledonia, they also say, Ua du satu lima supatu enam walu pitu.
It's the same. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And they also say mata, it's I. Yeah, and they say udui, we say mudui, mouth. Even Wallace Fortuna and from American Samoa, they speak the same. They say lima, it's a hen.
Lily says indigenous Taiwanese languages were crushed by successive occupations.
When we are little kids, we're not supposed to speak your native languages and you get punished. So that's people are afraid to speak.
She believes Taiwan can learn from the strength of Pacific traditions.
Wow, it's very proud to be part of the Pacific's family.
Don't forget, you can see all of our stories from right across the Pacific on our website. Thanks for watching Pacific Pulse. We leave you with the meke, traditional Fijian dance on stage in American Samoa at the Festival of Pacific Arts. Enjoy!